I've known Mike since we both worked at UC Davis, and I was, someone that was hired to support his program.
I gotta make more friends.
Have you looked through your goodie bag yet?
I took a peek.
Let's open up. See what we got here. I know the world wants to know.
I have like 3.
Well, these are
One of them.
favorite snacks of Mike and Elba.
Really?
So
What do we got? What do we got? Let's show off here.
I'll
got
be your
some
friend, man.
Cheez-Its.
Oh yeah.
Those are everybody's favorites, right?
I'm in Santa Rosa.
Well, at midnight. Some Hershey's.
Escape the children.
I love my tasting.
What's the story of the
That's
skateboard? Do we
actually one
know?
of the things.
I don't know what this is about,
I'll ask you.
but these are delicious.
Organizational development, training, HR.
I think that they liked the classics, right? Because they've got
And I'm just
Hershey's,
so burnt out.
butterscotch, and Cheez-Its.
I just
mean,
feel
what
like
could be
I
better?
worked so hard.
I was a long time barfly with Michael. He was.
How you got stories?
I don't remember any of them.
Okay.
But he was like the coolest, brightest, shiniest happy hour talker. Didn't matter the subject, didn't matter left or right or front or center or back or personal or public. It was fantastic to gather for a couple of beers with the man. So
My cousin wouldn't give me a ride in his Cushman. And he picked me up on the lawn, crashed me down, knocked the window out of me, called me a little grub, okay? But he was still my cousin.
You think he'd be over it by now?
Hell no, I'm 68 years old, I still had a grudge, but that's my cousin, so it's okay.
I came into the family when I just got here from Italy, so cousins.
It's funny, he ended up with the white Oldsmobile that I wanted so bad, and he shipped it down to Puerto Rico on a big old aircraft carrier. It was the Hot Rod Shark Oldsmobile that was my dad's, and Mike wanted it. I said, so did I. So, but I wasn't old enough to get it yet, so it was all right. At least it went to the family.
Quiero decir que ahora es tiempo para bañarse o hacer algo. Thank you very much for coming, ladies and gentlemen. We want to just say we appreciate your presence here. We're going to be wrapping things up by cleaning a few things up, so go clean yourself. Thank you.
Have you got a quick story to share? We're rolling video.
Oh, a story.
And I want to hear from you.
Show him your little toy.
Use your big words. I went to...
It's okay. He's okay.
Friends were neighbors or relatives. What's the story?
Niece? Sister?
Sister.
Yes, this is Elba's sister. I know. Everybody have a story to share?
We got time.
There's so many of them. You know, she was my confidant. You know, after Mom died and Ray died, she became my confidant. We talked just about every night until she got sick. Then I would call, and this is after she was really sick. And we would sing nursery rhymes, Spanish nursery rhymes, and she would try to join in, you know, having a tough time, but she quieted down after those nursery rhymes. That was really, really super. Do
you remember a nursery rhyme?
In Spanish.
And one of them, what's it called? What's the name of it?
The one we liked the best was the nursery rhyme. Yeah, well, I guess it was. It was Palomita Blanca, Palomita Azul. White dove and blue dove.
This is the best celebration of life I've ever been to.
really was.
I'm being honest.
Me too.
I mean, hi, hi, hi.
Get her good side.
Here we go.
There we go.
Here are Michelle's boys, and now I have them.
Thank you for joining us.
Elba and Mike, a love story. Chapter 1, Introducing Elba. Our story begins in Santurce, Puerto Rico, on October 29, 1937. Ramon Asandin and Elba Torres welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Elba Mercedes, into this world. They then went on to have sons Ramon Jr. and daughters Elizabeth and Frances. Elba was a happy child, albeit a quiet one. She preferred reading books to anything else. Ven a jugar con nosotros. No estoy leyendo. Due to Ramon Sr. being an officer in the U.S. Army, the family relocated often. They lived in Santurce, Puerto Rico, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, Yokohama, Japan, Augusta, Georgia, and Fort Huachuca, Arizona. Because of her extreme intelligence, Elba graduated from high school 2 years earlier than her peers. She earned her bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Puerto Rico and earned her master's in zoology from the University of Arizona. She also participated in other activities. It was at this time Elba met Joseph Oñate. She was at happy hour at the Officers Club at Fort Huachuca when in came this beautiful specimen of a man who was downing a pitcher of orange juice. She immediately made a connection with this Air Force pilot, and she went on one date with him. But Elba found Joe to be too fast for her, so she sent this flyboy on his way. They reconnected just a few months later, only to become inseparable. After a short engagement of 3 months, Elba Mercedes was married to Captain Joseph James Oñate on December 26, 1959. They honeymooned in Las Vegas, and he was soon transferred to the Air Force Base in Keflavik, Iceland. While in Iceland, they had sons Joe and Eric. A couple of years later, they moved to Tampa, Florida, where they welcomed daughter Yvonne. Their joy was soon shattered when Joe was tragically killed during a flight training exercise. Elba was devastated and took her children home to Guaynabo, Puerto Rico to live with her family.
Chapter 2, Mike is invented. Back in Antioch, California, Lynn Michael Tompkins was born to Chuck and Peggy Tompkins on November 25, 1944. A couple of years later, the family was complete after the birth of little sister Pam. When Lynn was 8, the family moved to Walden Road in Walnut Creek, where the family would stay. He loved playing with his friends and building things. Some of his favorite memories involved spending time with his grandparents, teasing his sister, and spending countless hours tinkering at the family hardware store. When he was in 6th grade, he learned that he was not the only Lynn in the class. There were 3 other Lyns, and they were all girls.
Lynn Tompkins, Lynn Tompkins, Lynn.
You can just call me Mike. And that was the day he became Mike. Mike grew up and went to Las Lomas High School, where he made some of the most valuable and lifelong friendships of his life with folks like Randy Tamberg, Bob Nordeman, Mike Brulo. And prior to this, there was one who was with him from the start, Keith Howard. Mike was in the Spanish Club, lettered in tennis, performed in the band at the Discords, and was elected student body president. Upon graduation, he attended Berkeley as an engineering major. That didn't go well. He found the requisite math classes to be a bit too challenging, and being too proud to change majors, he
he ended up dropping out, but he did make lifelong friendships with Dave and Pat Adams. Not earning a degree was not an option for Mike. He worked while going to Diablo Valley Community College. Mike earned his BA in Public Administration from San Francisco State University. He had planned on joining the Peace Corps, but his number came up. He was drafted. He chose the Navy because he liked the uniforms. After attending Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island, he was given the dream gig in the Navy, a position on a carrier ship that cruised around South America with ports at almost every major party city on the continent. Something Mikey didn't expect would ever happen to him, though, happened. He chose the Navy and didn't realize that he suffered from extreme seasickness until he was on a ship. He threatened to go AWOL, but because of his Spanish Club experience, he was offered the opportunity as communication officer on base in the beautiful tropical island in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Lucky bastard.
Chapter 3. Elba and Mike Unite. Elba was determined that she was going to fall in love again, but her main priority was finding a man who would love her children. So she got out of mourning, though she would love Joe for her entire life, and made a few changes. Elba once again went to happy hour at the Officers Club in San Juan, where Mike was there, drinking a pitcher of not orange juice, but of beer. Yes, Elba had a type. So much so, but more on that later. They soon became inseparable. Now, Mike didn't think he was going to get married, and especially not as a 25-year-old man, and not to an older woman, and not to a widow with 3 children, but he never stood a chance against Elba's trifecta of beauty, brains, and charm. Before he went on leave to California, instead of using the money that he saved to buy himself a Corvette, he used his savings to purchase an engagement ring for Elba. Elba and Mike were married on June 27, 1970 in Carmel, California. The family moved to Belmont, California. Mike earned his master's degree in public administration from California State University, Hayward, now CSU East Bay, and was working as a city manager. But he found that to be a soul-sucking experience, so he quit his job and became a school bus driver. As with all of his dreams, Elba was always supportive while Mike tried a few more career ventures. He was called up to serve in Sacramento for then-Governor Ronald Reagan. In 1972, Mike and Elba moved to Citrus Heights, where they would remain for the remainder of their lives. In late December 1974, Mike and Elba welcomed a new tax deduction and a definite whoops baby in the form of their daughter, Michelle, also known as Parcel. And a few months after Michelle was born, Elba asked Mike permission if she could tell her parents that the house next door was up for sale. He didn't see why not, but he was surprised when they actually bought the house, sight unseen. Mike often joked that the entire island of Puerto Rico moved next door. The 80s and 90s brought some changes. Elba accepted a job teaching at St. Mel's Catholic School, where Michelle also attended. She was beloved by her students for her kindness, her wit, her humor, her brilliance, and the fact that almost every year she won the faculty basketball free throw contest that earned her students a pizza party. Mike began working at the University Extension at UC Davis, where he would stay for 13 years. He helmed an 11-week course called the Executive Program. At this time, he also began his work as a management consultant and created his own consulting business, Straight Ahead Management. This era would prove to be very busy for Mike and Elba socially. Prior to getting married, Mike told Elba how important his friendships were to him. And Elba conceded to that, but she never had issue with it in the first place. In addition to hanging out with the neighbors and getting a keg, which the guys would often compete to see how fast they could empty, Mike created more social events. He started the Oscar Levant Society, a club for people who didn't like clubs, where the goal was to socialize and talk smart. Mike and buddy Steve Cobley, aka Sterling, took part in RAGBRAI, Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa. And as much as they had fun participating in the ride in 1987, where they rode 437 miles over 7 days, Dad delighted in the 9 months of planning with his friend. He experimented with hang gliding, hot air balloon travel, and as always, there were vehicles. Cars, boats, motorcycles, manpower vehicles. Dad had it all. He had a habit of bringing his newest toy, be it a bike, motorcycle, or kayak, into the house where he would admire his purchase. Mom was less than pleased with this. Mike returned to school to earn his doctorate in psychology from the University of the Pacific. This endeavor took 10 years, and upon graduating, he described himself as the oldest intern ever. Elba retired from teaching and spent much of her time reading, cooking, hanging out with her brother Ray, who moved next door, watching TV, shopping, and keeping her face wrinkle-free.
You want to go out to dinner?
No thanks, I'm reading.
Mike thought that becoming a psychologist would amp up his consulting business, but fate had something else in store for him. Mike never imagined that becoming a psychologist would give him so much fulfillment. He loved helping people, all people, from prisoners to people having trouble at work or home, to people experiencing physical pain and everything in between. He enjoyed watching their interactions and listening to them. Now, don't get me wrong, he wasn't your normal therapist. But who's to say what normal is anyway? Mike did not adhere to not being judgmental and not taking sides. He always had an opinion, and he wasn't afraid to speak freely. Mike and Elba spent a lot of time together. They had long talks about whatever they were reading, and Dad would pontificate about his day, and they would watch a lot of movies together. Their favorite activity was watching the San Francisco Giants. They were delighted at the birth of their grandchildren, Noel and Ian Diego. Grandpa kept detailed notes of things they did that amused him. He would carry the toddlers around the house, pointing to objects and giving them important life lessons.